masculinity should not be toxic.
Even the blessing CEO of this world have done a 360-degree today. She's in love and her story has changed.
I saw Monica's father and the seed he sowed in his son destroyed Bob. And it's unacceptable to stay without providing. Even if you become ill.
That every family that has a male child growing requires a father's presence.
To be able to groom this boy or this man that we're hoping for, you can't leave that to one person. There has to be complete parenting. A male child that one person trained, especially if it's just the mother, you're going to only have a boy child in body and the mind of a woman. Most male children that were grown or that were groomed by their parent, their mom alone, what you're going to see is a male child in structure but with the mind of a woman. The world is actually a conspiracy theory as it stands.
A lot of families today, the mothers, unquote, have succeeded in removing that father figure from the family. Rate of divorce, especially for Africans, for Nigerians who migrated to the Western society, is way outrageous. Even in the UK where we are, that for every male child is almost a miracle to get to 40 years old without committing suicide. The society is also failing the male child. The suicide rate of male children in this society is higher than whatever statistics.
We gathered women and we're teaching them about domestic violence. What about the men that are doing the domestic violence? Somebody needs to talk to them. It's honestly, if you're a man that was abusing your wife back home in Nigeria, this environment is not free. I think the society also for several years has not been fair to the women.
There is something peculiar about women from the Southeast. What they do is that they will just create a content on Facebook or on social media. And what they do every day on their content is to tell people how bad that man has been. And we don't get to hear the other part of the story. We don't get to hear from the man. We only hear from the woman. If you take the sample of Nigerian women who do this on social media, you would find majority of them are Igbo. I stand to be corrected. Good evening, good morning, good afternoon, or even good night, depending on where you are joining us today on Glasscast Podcast. Your podcast, my podcast, our podcast, where we converge every now and then to discuss issues of great importance, to draw analysis on the things that matter, and will leave you to decide based on key facts and knowledge gained from this studio. We want to thank you specially for being part of what we do. We have seen the level of your engagement on all our platforms. Your comments, we take them in so dearly. We digest them and we respond accordingly. Your feedbacks, your emails, your phone calls, your chats, we appreciate all those. And we encourage you to continue to do what we are already doing by engaging in our page. And we ask you to encourage those around you who haven't followed or liked or subscribed to our pages to do so for the benefit of their learning. And on this note, from myself and the Glasscast team, I want to welcome you again to this special episode. With me this evening, from this part of the world and from this studio, we have erudite scholars. I have by my immediate left, Chris. Chris, what do you want to say to our subscribers and our followers and our entire audience this evening?
Well, thank you so much for having me. I'll say to all of us, please, whatever we can do to make the world a better place. That's usually my mantra. Whatever we can do to make the world a better place, including listening to podcasts like this, so that we can improve our information and our knowledge about our environment and about society. If you agree with me, the world is actually going south. A lot of bad news. Somebody says if you want to listen to things that trend most, it's bad news. But if we can come here and hear good things that can make the world better, we've got younger people that are looking forward to us. We've got a lot of people that are looking forward to having a better life. We can come this way, bring your family members, friends, subscribe to this podcast and listen and get knowledge in addition to the one you already have. Thank you.
And you've heard directly from the horse's mouth, and it tells you that when you are with Glasscast podcast, you are in the better place. And the encouragement is make everywhere you are a better place. Thank you, Chris, for that word of advice to our followers. And we have over there the great mind himself. You've seen his contributions to many discussions on this platform. So we are glad to have Mazimba again. So I call him Mazimba and his name is Mike Mba. Mike, what do you have to say to our audience?
Thank you, Henry. I'm happy to be here. With urge the audience to keep watching Glasscast for informative and educative programs. Thank you very much.
Keep watching Glasscast podcast for educative and informative contents. Remember, we draw the analysis. We don't inform policies. But we leave you to decide based on the facts made available to you. Recently, we said we are going to look into matters of the family. Family matters. Things that relate to parenthood, marriage, engagement, relationships, raising up children, and making the society a better place. So today we are starting with that episode. And we will run separate episode on aspects of this subject. And I would encourage you, if you are the father, the mother, the sibling in the house, you need to come closer. And you even need to come quite closer if you are a dad or that son who is in the house today. I would encourage you to come even closer. Get those things that keep you glued to our conversation. Get your cup of water or your bucket of popcorn, like I would always say, because this discussion this evening is packed. And Chris is here to do justice to.
He's very loaded.
Thank you so much.
So today we are looking at issues that relates to mentoring young boys into responsible fathers and good husband. Interesting, isn't it? So
it is.
We are going to delve into this area. So if you're that young man, that young son, that young boy, this subject today concerns you. Or if you are the father, how do you want your son to be represented in the society in the near future? It may interest you to engage in this. Remember, we have all our platforms for you to send us your thoughts, your feedbacks, and what you think about this particular subject. Chris.
Thank you. Well, before we start this, I'd like to put a caveat out there that this is not to say that female children or this whole gender thing, it's not about gender. This is growing young people to become responsible fathers, responsible parents, ultimately to impact our community and make the society a better place. I just wanted to put that caveat. But you will agree with me that a lot has been said about the girl child. It's not even enough, but a lot has been said, and we'll expect to get more because, it's not uhuru yet until we get to where everybody is going to be happy. However, I just thought I should lend my voice to the role of the boy child, whom gradually is being forgotten or being over pampered or under pampered, depending on the society where you are, or sometimes even the whole masculinity, the whole thing just makes us, you see some toxicity in the environment, in the communities where we see ourselves. So I put it this way. I said a better society is built not only by empowering the girl child, but also by intentionally raising emotionally responsible and disciplined, respectful and purposeful boys who will become good men and husbands and, of course, fathers. So this is a topic we can go on and on and on and on and talk about because there's so much to talk about around it. However, you will agree with me that some of the key points I like to talk about is boys need intentional mentorship. As it stands now, especially in the world where most African countries or Africans are moving to Europe or different environments, the whole culture shock, but even back home, wherever it is you are.
In the era of
social media and those narratives where people just come up with all kind of narratives. In fact, as it stands today, I'm beginning to get scared if doing the wrong thing is becoming the new good thing, as it were. If you look at the social media where you see people either they are naked or throwing, just doing things that are really not adding to the society. Does it pay the bills? Does it get all the likes and all the views? Yes. But ultimately, is that where we should be going? The society is decaying by the minutes, and we need to start tackling this as it stands.
So the society is decaying by the minutes. And we all remember that, from the primary social studies, that family is the basic unit of the society. And that man, that son, that male child has a deep or a big role to play in uplifting the family and in a way supporting societal sustenance. But Chris, if I may ask you, I know growing up as a young boy, you had some advice from your dad. And today, based on the advice, the things your dad told you as a young boy, and looking at the young boys of today who will grow up to become the man that we've all become.
Exactly.
What sort of advice do you have to that young man?
Well, I'll start with my dad. I enjoyed the organic, regular family, African family, where the dad at some point was providing, and then when he got older, the business he set up for the wife became what was sustaining the family. And then you could tell clearly. In fact, there was a time I asked my dad, how come two of you never quarrel? I've heard families, friends, and he said I should just keep quiet. In his own words, just keep quiet, don't worry. The quarrel, even if we quarrel, it's not for your consumption. But don't get too excited. Everybody quarrels. Even within your siblings, don't you people quarrel? He said it's normal. They have issues, but don't get excited. But you have to be a good man, respect your family. So when I came out to the society and my school days, when I hear people say that their parents fight, physical fight, or raise their voices, it used to be strange to me, to be honest, because I had to ask that question. In fact, when I was going to get married, the only question my father asked me is, am I sure that I'm ready? Because I used to have this temperament of, permit me to use something to describe it in Igbo. Asikacha. If it's either my way or the highway, I had that growing up, which was to a very large extent. In fact, if it's in today's world, that's toxic, to be honest. But I realized that getting married, and I will advise anybody, if you want to marry, please marry someone you love so much that you can do anything to keep them. When I hear things like somebody poisoned somebody and people that live together, it used to be strange to me. Till today I sound. So my advice to young people, to be able to be a good man, a responsible husband, a good person for the society to count on would be, please stay honest. Do the right thing all the time. I worked with someone who told me, work as though the owner of the business is watching you every day. That has guided my entire career. One of the things I'm also very passionate about is touching lives. If you Google my name, in fact, it was my second son that told me, Daddy, I had to Google your name. And I saw you doing corporate social responsibilities in all over the places. Yeah, I used to head the CSR and sustainability of an organization one time, and it took me to a lot of communities. I was growing. In fact, I spent one of my birthdays in the midst of IDP camp at some point. I didn't remember it was my birthday that morning. I had already gotten into the flight, got into the place before I got to know. And my wife was really worried, but she understood that was a passion I had and that she just supported it and all of that. So I'll tell people, whatever you can do to make the world a better place, please hold on to it. And that way, all these other distractions around can be checked. If you remember that the focus is to make the world a better place in whatever field you are, in whatever business you do, in whatever thing, just have it at the back of your mind that if the world is better, other people that are coming will be able to enjoy what you are enjoying or what you've enjoyed or even better. So that for me works.
Okay, I want to ask Chris a question. So you mentioned mentoring, which is very important in the society. In a situation, you have an adolescent you are trying to mentor, and you give the adolescent that is growing to become a man an advice, and the person is not following the advice to become that real man that you expected. What are you going to do? Or how are you going to navigate?
Okay, that's like thinking that raising a child is a mathematical solution where you say 1 + 1 and then it's 2. Remember, you're dealing with the human mind and the brain that is developing. In some part of our community, they will tell you, even people who are vulnerable, when you want them to do something and they refuse, one of the things you can do is to watch their mood, let them come back again. I mean, for a child, you might not just let him be and then come back later or a longer time, but you have to keep directing them. And there's something we must know, and I put it down somehow. Children listen to you, but they do more with what they see. Now, if I am that father that wants him to do the right thing and keep telling him to do the right thing, but every day you come back home drunk, whenever you have issues with your wife, you are the first to throw hand, or you beat, or you are abusive, they will listen to you, but they will take what you're doing. That is what makes a child unique. You understand? I think I even put it somewhere here in part of my this thing. Yes, you can tell them what you want, but they will listen to what you do. They will see and watch you do what you do. And that way, you can be rest assured that whatever you've told him over time, because they see that you're living right, they won't have a choice. One of the things I boast of is the number of people my dad was able to pull from our villages then. In fact, I didn't know that was a job. But I guess in the 50s and in the 60s, it was a big job. He would come to the village, people who are grown up, young men who are grown up, that have got skills, but they don't have opportunity. He would take them to the city and help them to get a job. I grew up thinking my father's name was Oga. Every man that came to our house, up until I was an adult, used to call my father Oga. I didn't know what that was until one day I asked my mom, and I explained to me that a lot of people, he brought them here. Some of them learnt under him, then they moved to get other businesses and got other jobs. So Oga was a regular word in my house for when visitors come. Oga. So when he died, it was one of the jokes I made on his funeral. I said, well, for those of you that used to come and Oga has gone, maybe need to grow another Oga. And everybody laughed, And so it's something, I guess that is also where my passion for the job I do, or the jobs I've done, which had to do with giving people what I call meal ticket. Even though you're not doing them a favor, it's a job, But that opportunity to get people, to get a meal ticket, to get a job, for me, I take it personal too. So,
yeah.
Another dimension of the question is in present day family, we are trying to bring up the child. Maybe the wife is trying to redirect the child to suit her aspects. How are you going to be able to control that situation to make sure that the child you are trying to bring up to become a man be able to meet up the standard?
Okay. First of all, I also like to say that masculinity should not be toxic. First of all, it's okay to have masculinity, but it shouldn't be toxic. Rather, true masculinity for me is protection, discipline, humility, responsibility, emotional maturity, leadership with compassion. That's what I think masculinity should be. Strength without character becomes dangerous. So when you are able to manage that first as a man, most likely, just the Bible, like the Bible talked about how men should love their wife.
Yeah.
That responsibility is actually for a man. And everything I reeled out is take it to the bank. It's the definition of love. If you're able to do that and love her properly, you might not even get to that. However, even when that happens, or rather where families where you're already in that deep waters, my advice will be lead with compassion. Present your facts and show cause. These children are not going to be children forever.
Yeah.
Remember, they are in the process. If somebody deliberately is trying to take them away from you or turn their face away, it will just be a matter of time.
Chris, would you say this to a woman, a wife at home who is a top fan of individuals like Blessing CEO?
Yeah, okay. Do you know why I laughed? Even the Blessing CEO of this world have done a 360 degree today. She's in love and her story has changed. Different from what she used to say in the past. Now, we're humans. We are humans. And this will take me to a very recent movie that has been trending. In fact, that movie got over 4 million views in less than 24 hours. Talking about Monica.
Yeah, Monica. I watched it.
Now, a lot of people could relate with it because it was like a regular African or Nigerian family. However, there was an angle I looked at from it. I'm not sure a lot of people did, or I saw Monica's father. I saw Monica's father and the seed he sowed in his son, Bobo, which, as far as I'm concerned, destroyed Bobo. And if nothing is done, if it's not changed, his son, his grandson, great-grandchildren are going to go into that trajectory. The father lost his job at some point and never made any effort, at least from what was being presented, to do any other thing. He was probably one of these old railway companies or something. He was exited from his job or retrenched, and he never went further to do anything. And if you remember some of the things I mentioned, protection and provision is one of the responsibilities we have as men. I don't know, some people are going to challenge it and say it's not just men, women are also going to. But the truth is, if you're a purposeful man and you're able to do that, it is unacceptable to stay without providing for your family. Even if you become ill, even when Monica's father became ill and was bedridden, because he didn't sow a good seed to his son, he didn't get any good thing from the boy, because even when the boy was supposed to start working or doing business, he was lazy, because what he saw was a father that used to stay at home. What he saw was a father that has given up on. If I called it, he felt defeated. At some point, he showed this defeat, which shouldn't be. So, what for a woman that is that way? First of all, it started from somewhere. Go and check it. There's this popular saying that for every reaction, or rather for every action, there's a reaction. If we can, and remember what we're trying to do is to mentor young people from a younger age. That way we're going to have proper husband materials, permit me to use that word, or proper men that will make society a better place. But even when you have that as people, because no matter what you do, we're still going to have the leftists, as it were, or the people who would not want society to go normal. I do not think that confrontation, being violent or being toxic, makes the difference or can solve the problem. It wouldn't.
Well, you've heard from the horse's mouth that every man who is growing up with the prospect of becoming a husband must be a husband material by all parameters. Chris, do you agree with me that every family that has a male child growing requires a father's presence?
I don't know the biblical injunction around that, but I know very well that families are actually meant to be together. And when I mean families, if I'm not talking about when death calls, if the ultimate call happens, that's different. But as long as to be able to groom this boy or this man that we're hoping for, you can't leave that to one person. Same thing with even the female child. There has to be complete parenting for this to work. Have I been guilty at some point of this similar thing, at least for a year or two, where all I did was visit family and all of it? Yes. However, I could, because of my understanding of this whole thing I'm talking about, I knew that it was just a matter of time. But I needed to sort a few things. No regrets. Some of the things, the reasons I stayed back paid off. And then before, but the truth is, for you to have a proper, well-grounded man, two parents have to be involved. There's this popular adage in Igbo that I think, why Nwokezoro? Sorry, I don't know how it was, but basically I'm just trying to explain it. What it means is that a male child that one person trained, especially if it's just the mother, you're going to only have a boy child in body and the mind of a woman. And I'm not saying women are less. They are not weaker vessels, as it were, even though the Bible calls them that, but not in a derogatory manner. But what you're going to have is a man that is not fully all-rounded. There has to be that father figure. That's where masculinity, I said,
is there a scientific aspect to this scenario?
Well, I am not entirely a scientist, but I know that with information across board, if you check the internet, most male children that were grown or that were groomed by their parent, their mom alone, what you're going to see most times, and you can fact check that, a lot of them, what you're going to see is a male child in structure, but with the mind of a woman.
This is a conspiracy theory then.
Well, you can call it conspiracy theory, but the truth is, in my own opinion, the world is actually a conspiracy theory as it stands today. Because for whatever narrative is being pushed, very recently we started hearing about antivirus that was predicted years ago. Some people have already said it's a theory, is a conspiracy theory. So even the life we live, if you ask me, today we were discussing about internet being centered around one source, as it were. If anything goes wrong, what happens tomorrow? Somebody might think the person in Africa is living in Stone Age. But if we lived in Stone Age as people and were able to survive up to the extent where we can today, some of us can sit and discuss intellectually with people who never lived in Stone Age, that should count for something. That local knowledge is important. Let's not jettison that. So if you ask me, what do you call it? The theory, conspiracy theory, yeah. Scientifically proven. The truth is that we're dealing with a human, and be it a child, a vulnerable one, a male child, female child. If they are not properly shown the way to grow, you're going to definitely have a distorted society.
And again, because humans are dynamic. Exactly. Well, whether conspiracy, whether fact, and all that, I was thinking that maybe by the time we are ending this particular episode, maybe we'll start referring to Chris as pastor, because there's been a lot of biblical quotations.
Train a child the way he should go. Those are the very popular ones. Train a child the way he go. When he goes, he will not.
But there is a concern here, Chris. So whether we like it or not, all of us here are from Africa. All of us here are from Nigeria, and we know in the society where we grew up, we lived a kind of in an egalitarian society where the system, there is a structured system. Every family has a father, has a mother, has uncles, aunties, and siblings. But what is happening today, even among people from our culture, from Africa, from Nigeria, we have so much adopted the Western ideology. You see a lot of families today, the mothers, unquote, have succeeded in removing that father figure from the family by ostracizing the man through the process of divorce. And most times in the Western culture, when that happens, the mother takes primary custody of the children. And by principle or by whatever means it is being made, that child, especially that boy, that son, will be raised
by the
mother. So I don't know how you see this concern, because the rate of divorce, especially for Africans, for Nigerians who migrated to the Western society, and even in Nigeria or in most African societies who have embraced social media and civilization so much, the divorce rate we are seeing today is way outrageous compared to what we saw during the times of our fathers. What do you have to say about it?
Okay, thank you very much. While you were saying this, a lot of things were just running in my mind. Sometimes these things are narratives. Just like I said when I started, bad news sells like wildfire. I am not ruling out, I don't know if there's any data supporting it, that there are more divorce now than any time. It could be, but I want to tell you that there are a lot of success stories. It's just that when we were being taught communication growing up, we're told that if a dog bites a man, it won't make news. But if a man bites a dog, it will make headline. Those divorces are selling because that's the narrative that is being pushed. People just want people to be toxic so that there will be something to talk about. Have you realized that in those days, even when there was no much of internet back home, celebrity marriages, there's usually this searchlight beamed on most of them so that there will be something to talk about and sell news. Again, I'm not discountenancing the fact that there are divorces, but there are also success stories. There was something I did when I got married. I and my wife had it as a discussion. The only thing we didn't do was to sign a document, but we were almost certain about if we have to, let's sign. You see this thing we're going into. Any other thing can happen, but divorce is not an option. To buttress it further, there was a news trending recently too on the internet where two people got married, and on the day of the wedding, two of them, people were there, they tore their marriage certificate. I don't know if anybody saw it. They tore it openly on live on their wedding day. And the message they were passing is that, you see, divorce is not part of this discussion. That news didn't get, I looked at the view, it didn't get so much view. But when a little story around the very recent one where husband and wife came to the UK, the man was cheating, the whole story, the wife got angry, tried to stop them, took her off COS, all of those stories, and then the Home Office sent two of them back. If you look at the engagement in that video or in that story, in fact, a lot of people were carrying it to tell their own side of the story, and it was still getting views. That's just to buttress that bad news sells. I'm not discounting it, but the truth is, there are still very successful marriages. And we're not talking about it enough. And I blame most of our religious leaders and people who have got voice. Can we amplify some of those ones that are a success? Now, back to your question. If a woman ostracizes the husband and stays with the child and grows the child, that's exactly the reason for this podcast. People should learn not to let it happen, but even when it happens, our society, these days, our young people stay on the internet every other day. Stories and contents like this will present to them there are better things to do, that there are masculine energies that doesn't have to be toxic. And even for a father to be present, it has to be presence with impact. It's not just being presence like the Monica father I talked about. He was available till he passed, but there was no impact. At least there was no positive impact. Even though the daughter loved him so much, which is expected of a son. We all know the story, rather the narrative around the first daughter and the father. That whole thing is something to study. You can look at it. Almost all of us know, and then the first son and the mother. Those are things that just happens. We don't know how it happens, but if the father is present and there is no impact, that male child would be as good as a child without a father figure. So I'll maintain it's okay to be masculine, but it doesn't have to be toxic. You can use your masculine energy positively and keep the society to be a better place.
And do you think the society is helping that male child today? Because, even before now, we've had this conversation where there is a lot of this conversation about the female child, about the girl child, about the women, how the society protects them, how the society makes sure, ensures that their needs are met and all this. But we have seen a lot of young men, a lot of young boys, even in Western societies, they are being left with emotional neglect. They were being left with needs unattended. Research has it that even in the UK where we are, that for every male child, it's almost a miracle to get to 40 years old without committing suicide. The suicide rate of male children in this society is higher than whatever statistics we have in that direction. Does it mean that the society, apart from the father being there, that the society is also failing the male child?
Thank you. You see, you've said something that has got both facts and is staring us in the face. And that's the solution.
And it's not conspiracy theory.
No, it's not. I don't think that's really conspiracy theory, because the truth is the society also was not helping. I remember in my younger days, I attended one of these feminist program where they gathered a lot of women. Then it was a big thing. I mean, that was the advent or the early days of this domestic violence. And then they gathered women and were teaching them about domestic violence, what to do, what not to do, how not to do. My first question was, so where are the men? Who is doing the violence? If every woman here came with a scar or had story to tell about domestic violence, and they are the same people you are talking to, so what about the men that are doing the domestic violence? Somebody needs to talk to them. And that is where mentorship for me. I wrote down a few solutions or practical solutions, which I'm just going to reel out.
Yeah.
One of it is encourage fathers to mentor intentionally. It's okay to just live your life every day, go to work, come back, ask your children how was school today, I hope everything is fine, and go to bed and all of that. But if you're intentional about it, it will go a long way. Secondly, introduce male mentorship program in schools and communities. That is to answer the question. Even where your mother or the family has been fractured for whatever reason, if the society deliberately prepares some sort of mentorship for young people and say, come here, you go to school every day, they are telling you it's okay to be a male. There's nothing wrong with it. The whole story around men are only violent, they commit suicide. No. The truth is, there are more in the prisons. We are more in the suicide stories. We are more in everywhere you go to that is negative. But can we get better? Yes. And this mentorship will play a major role. Another thing is promote emotional healthy conversation among boys. When you see boys talk, the popular thing, girls talk. Do we know what boys talks are? How many of us can really talk about what boys talks
It's not popular.
You understand? And when, depending on the community or the society you find yourself, what makes boys talk is either discussing female, discussing crime, or discussing for younger people. Except you've been able to be cured of all of that, then when men sit, they talk investments, talk businesses, talk how to protect their family, talk how to make the world a better place. So it has to be a deliberate thing. Or else, just like saying education fell from the blues. No, the community made it so that we can shape the male child. Another part is celebrate responsible fathers publicly. I don't know how many of us see that. What we see is when they shame the man. In fact, now it has become such a big business in some part of the world today. When you're able to shame a man, either your husband, boyfriend, or mentor, when you're able to shame him, they'll take him to prison and then they will give you a better status. I understand that in Europe, America, and even the UK, a lot of people have gotten documents by just throwing their men under the bus. I mean, there are people who have done that. So, who is celebrating the ones that are doing well? The ones that show up every day as a father. The ones that show up for the children. The ones that show up for the mother.
And the society said, what you just said is what the society encourages.
Yeah, I know.
So those women who come abroad, the stories all over social media, women come abroad and they use that opportunity to throw their men under the bus just because they want to get papers and they want to get freedom. And some of them, I've seen a story where this happened. The man was thrown away from the house. In fact, he was asked to come and pick his clothes with bean bag, black bean bag, kept on the flower veg where he went to pick up his clothing. Even when he left the house, the car he bought, the gadgets he bought in the house were taken away from him. And even the woman was even bringing in another man into the house to enjoy what another man has worked for. So when we say the society is encouraging this, I don't know if you've had a house visitor visit your house, or if you have gone to the hospital with your wife to do a medical checkup and all that. Mm-hmm. You know, have you found out that the society, especially in the UK, in the Western society, train their medical personnel to take your wife to the corner and ask that woman questions about the husband? Is your husband maltreating you? Is your husband beating you? Is your husband shouting on you? Is your husband controlling your finance? And they do all this. They ask the woman against the man. And nobody comes to ask the man. Nobody checks on the well-being of the man.
Yeah.
That is,
thank you
we have
very
to
much.
take this
Thank you very much. Thank you very
analysis.
much. You've actually come to the main reason why we're doing this. Because there's a skewed narrative against the man. I think someone needs to begin to speak of. I know of one lady on social media. Everybody trolls her. Any content she puts out, I think she's called the media girl. You can check her out. Anything she puts out, if you look at, if she gets engagement of 500,000, 350 or almost 400,000 of those people will be women trolling her. And what does she talk about? Men, check your mental health. Make sure that these women are not using you and all of that. However, having said that, I want to say something here. I don't have data to prove it, but I think that most of the men who get into this kind of narrative when they come abroad, has anybody bothered to check the history of what was happening? Because I will advise honestly, if you're a man that was abusing your wife back home in Nigeria, this environment is not for you.
Yeah, exactly.
This is my advice, my candid advice. You cannot do that over there and then come here and somehow you want to still flex muscles small, want to show it. If you do that, you're going to get into trouble. And I think that is deliberately done to protect the women. I'm not saying that should be or that men should be, or any gender at all should be kept down while the other one is being promoted. No. But if you remember, take it back to Bible, to even ancient Europe and everywhere. It has always been men. The Bible said Jesus fed 5,000 men and children. Women were there, but it wasn't mentioned. So I guess that because of all of that, I mean, it's only a tree that you're going to tell that I'm going to cut you tomorrow, and it will wait for you to come and cut tomorrow. So I think the society also several years has not been fair to the ladies or to the women. So what we see today is more or less the effect of fighting back. I'm not advocating for it. I'm not saying that's good. Now, our own way of getting it better or getting that balance is most of these things I've mentioned. A lot of it are still here. Celebrate responsible fathers. I said it. Teach relationship education and emotional intelligence as early as you can. Your boy that is 12, 13. In fact, something happened a few days ago in my house. My wife is someone that likes to give children, because of this environment, too. What do you think about, which is good? But at some point, I seek their opinion. But at some point, you remember that they are minors.
Yeah, they don't
really have what it takes to decide, especially in certain cases. So in some, you tell them what to do and then explain to them why you told them to do it. And if they appreciate it, and in fact, she asked them, and it wasn't any big deal. Let's go for grocery shopping. And they didn't just want to go out. They just want to stay back. And I'm like, hello. People went out, worked hard to get this money. They were able to bring it together. Let's go. Your job is just to follow. You're not even going to be the one that will carry it. You're going to be driven. You'll be chauffeur driven. So what exactly is the work? And I explained to them, I said, every opportunity we have to be together, we should savour it. We should enjoy it. There will come a time you will grow up, become a university undergraduate. You will leave the house. You will leave, and it will be left. The only memories you will have will be times like this. And by the time I was done, my daughter came back and said, Daddy, I'm very sorry for refusing to go. His brother came. The third one came. Meaning they understood. But as at that time, they had their face like this one wanted to go. I insisted. We were all going together. And the mom kept making jokes. Some of them were not interested in the joke because of they felt they were told to do. But by the time I finished the explanation, they were sorry they did it. And they promised me every opportunity we all have to be together must be savored. It became a mantra, So sometimes they need leadership as much as the environment or society is saying.
Leadership from the man.
Both. But I mean, the man should be able to come forward, because sometimes too, we all agree that children at some stage, I think there's also an Igbo adage that says it, they become the same age mates. They begin to feel like they are the same age mate with their mother.
Yeah.
Unconsciously. Why? Because they play over. My wife plays with these children every other day, which is lovely. Sometimes they play without me. I just force myself into the joke. You understand? Because I have to, or else you'll be sidelined. So, we can do this. Build safe space where boys can ask questions without being judged. I do that. I sit out with my boys and then we talk. Guys, what do you think about this? I have one that is very quiet, intelligent. If it's mathematics, he did further mathematics, and he was just having A's all over the place. But he doesn't like discussing. If you want to get him, just say, we have a meeting today. The boys are meeting tonight. Oh, you see him. If he comes, he can't keep quiet from the beginning to the end. So sometimes I have to push it. But I've understood his personality, and I'm letting him go that way. Do you understand? Sciences, all the data thing. The only time you get him, just like some of us here, is when you say something that is not scientifically proven, he just tell you that I don't think it's true.
So if you want to tease him,
oh no, you just go there. You want to hear him. I'll just say something or do one of those adages that I'm one of the fans of people that believe that some of our adage that our great grandparents talked about are outdated. I stand corrected. When you hear somebody say, what an elder will see, standing up, sitting down, if you climb Iroko tree, you will not see. My question would be, what is it you want to see that I cannot see on my phone? I'll just ask ChatGPT and ask Google Map and I will see it. I knew that was not the intention when it was being said, but those days you will agree with me that information were highly limited and with elders only. So,
well, Chris, don't you think that adage has to do with wisdom? The wisdom that the elderly acquire.
That's why I said, I'm just saying, if you look at it on the face value, I'll say, what is it you want to see that I haven't seen or that I cannot see on my phone? However, having spent 30 years or 40 years or 50 years, the experience the person acquires, you can't buy it in the shelf. It's not sold off the shelf.
You can't find it.
Okay. No, it's not on ChatGPT. It's not on ChatGPT.
I have a question I want to ask. In Igbo adage, they said, Ofonye anazunwa, meaning one person does not train a child. So I want you to explain in empirical analysis how the child you are training be able to navigate in the environment, devices in the society, so many other factors around the child in the family, because in the family there's a competition in the family, there's a politics there. Outside, there are vices that trying to control the child from the area, you are directing the child to other areas. Is there any empirical analysis you'll be able to put up how the child will be able to be mentored? And how will you know by the community? And how will you know that the child is following the footsteps? Is there any test?
Like feedback analysis. Well, I'll start with the feedback part. If you see a good child, you will know. If I visit your house and your kids come out and say greetings, yeah, it might just be greetings, but what that tells you is that they acknowledge that an elderly person, now this is talking like an African, is here. Not for the child to become subservient. First of all, you must teach your children to have self-esteem. Enough self-esteem to be able to carry them through troubled waters. They must be able to know who they are, their worth. And some of our parents, I don't blame them, they didn't know much. That was how far they knew. Felt that by flogging a child, beating them every day would make them change. You won't blame them so much. That was how much they knew. Today, there are better ways. I used to be, at some point in my family, that black sheep of the family growing up. I was, this is not to throw my mom under the bus, but I was beaten at some point that I started doubting if she was my mom. But guess what? To a very large extent, that made me who I am. I remember in my first year in the university, if it's 6:30 p.m., 7 p.m., and everybody is going out to the party or going out to club or going out to anywhere, I was hearing my mother's voice. I mean, this is just, how can people be going home? Even animals, when it's time to go to bed, they go to bed. Animals that don't have so much to offer. So she was trying to mold a responsible young man that when it is time to go home, go home. When it is time to go out in the daytime, go out. I said I heard my mother's voice in my head, even though she was not anywhere around the university. And that guided me to a very large extent. But again, what will that do for you if it is on the flip side? You become afraid. You become intimidated. When people call you to go out, you don't want to be social. You don't want to get... So it is now that mentorship, either by parents, both parents or community, that will finally make you that man that you want to be. No matter what you study in school. I don't know how many of us still use what we studied, define X and define Y for our daily life. Yeah, mathematicians will still tell you it's there, but I can't remember the last time I found X. I mean, doing the job, that's on the lighter note, I know that mathematicians will tell you there is a find X and find Y, but, this is just speaking that what will matter for that child, just like your question, will be at the end of the day, that molding, that mentorship, that training, that household love. I am very heavy on that. If you're not loved from home, you can't even give what you don't have. The lawyers in the house will let you know that there are Latin maxims, even accountants. You can't give what you don't have. If you don't have love, you can't share love. If you're not properly guided, you can't mentor anybody. Except you have to now do extra work of teaching yourself, and we know what that comes with. You've got a lot to do. So the feedback will be if the child turns to be a better person and the community and the society is better for it. That's our feedback. Even if there is a data around it, but ultimately the feedback or the impact to the community would be if we imagine that everybody in a particular community is safe, well-behaved. I heard of a country that for several years, nobody in the prison.
Yeah. That's Iceland?
There you go. I just didn't want to mention any country. I mean, you know what that means? You can imagine when I visited Dubai and I heard some of the things around their society. You can't fight openly in Dubai.
Yeah, it's a crime.
It's a criminal offense that can take you to prison. Like you can't even do open confrontation. That's how community check. But do you really need those laws? Yes. But over time, what will happen is people will learn to move around knowing that it is a no-no. And don't even start me with Nigerians where people drive and do all manner of things because there's no accountability.
Well, Chris, if you are talking about accountability, as we want to wrap up at this stage of the conversation, because I know it's a very broad subject and we'll look into various contexts of such discussion. But as we try to wrap up this conversation, like you are talking about taking responsibilities, and because you mentioned Nigerians, there is one popular thing about Nigerians. And when I'm talking about Nigerians, I'm not talking about Nigerians maybe from the north, women from the north or women from the southwest, but there is something peculiar about women from the southeast, Igbo women. Okay. If you go on social media, what you find on Facebook, on most social media, is Igbo women who have maybe had issues with their husbands, or maybe
I think they're dominant. I don't think they're Christians.
And it leads to separation somehow. And what they do is that they will just create a content on Facebook or on social media. And what they do every day on their content is to tell people how bad that man has been. And we don't get to hear the other part of the story. We don't get to hear from the man. We only hear from the woman. So in this case, for this Igbo woman who does it, because if you take the sample of Nigerian women who do this on social media, you would find majority of them are Igbo. I stand to be corrected, but this is what my research has shown. What advice do you have for these women?
Okay, except you have a research to prove that. But again, back to my story, that bad news flies faster. If we want to interrogate the customary or the cultural background of the ethnic groups in Nigeria, let's just take the three major ones, where you have the Yorubas, the Igbos, and the Hausas. You will realize that it was almost like a taboo up until very recently for a married Igbo woman to divorce. It was almost like a taboo. You hardly hear it. I don't know if I'm making sense, but with other culture, in fact, it's even worse with the northern women because it's only the men that can actually say, so uku. Sorry, don't mind me. I speak 6 Nigerian languages and sometimes I just want to flow.
Well, you know, it's part of the discussion. Yeah.
All right. You know, it's only them based on both religious background and culture, which has been intertwined, that can tell you I divorced you 3 times. Do the women have the right to do that? If you narrow down, yes. I also heard from someone who is grounded in the northern culture that says a woman can actually divorce her husband on grounds of, guess what? Not conjugal and not giving her satisfaction, sexual satisfaction. And when I heard it, my mouth was like, she can say she's not doing, and on that ground, does it bother you why most of those, I don't know if I'm permitted to use that, some of those medications for what do you call sexual enhancement and all of that are sold in mosques? If you enter any mosques, if you're hearing all of those, except you live in the north, you will not understand. I was born, bred, and brought up in the north, so I can tell. In most entrance of nurses, they sell Burantashi at the entrance. The reason is this: if you give a woman a reason to leave you, she will leave you. So go and get what you need to get and do what you have to do.
And maybe if you do that work,
sure, she's going nowhere.
Okay.
And again, talk about fertility. Have you ever heard in recent times that northern women are infertile. That's his topic for another day.
Topic for another day.
you will hardly hear a northern. Every young girl that grew up in the north has, you see, there's something they call Gorontula. There are a lot of them, and they are just in the farms by the roadside. You will hardly hear that a northern woman is infertile. There are few. I'm not saying they are not there, but very few. Why? Like I said, a topic for another day. That's also something I've taken time to look at,
Study, yeah.
you know. So for my advice for those who have chosen to do that, holding all circumstance constant, that probably the man is responsible, he must have done something in the past, or he really did something, even though we haven't heard from the other side. But what I will advise is, whenever you do things like that, consider and remember that the internet does not forget. Your children are watching. They will judge you. For now, we still have a generation who do not openly confront their parents, even though some are doing in developed world. But the way we are going, if not checked, we're going to have children confront their parents based on what they've done in the past. And the only way they can remember will be the internet that will remind them. So you as a mother, even fathers that do it, I worry when husband and wife have issues and then the next minute is on the internet. You're going to have things like online in-laws advise you. You're going to have people who do not even know where you guys started from are going to proffer solution. And because we have a mind.
And people like Blessing CEO.
I don't know what she has done to you, but there are more people who are doing feminism. You need to get to the internet. I try to take time and listen to some of those things. I've heard the woman say clearly that she's a prostitute. Men should just be, the only thing men are good for is to collect money from them and sleep with them. I mean, there's nothing that...
And somebody is putting that...
Oh, come on. And you're seeing a lot of followership and you're seeing a lot of comments, meaning the evil or bad is becoming the new norm.
Well, whether the evil or bad has become the new norm. One thing we have to...
It will not be. That's why we're here. We're going to check it. It's becoming.
We're here to put it on check.
There you go.
And we have to remember that internet doesn't forget. And based on this, we want to thank you for being part of this conversation. Remember, our comment sections are open. Let us get your feedback on what you think and how you think we can approach such discussion in the future. We never forget your comments. We go back, we read them, we digest them, and we use them to inform further analysis that we're going to bring to you. It's been a wonderful moment with Chris. I believe you would agree with me that it's been quite educative and informative. Chris, thank you very much for being part of today's program.
Thank you very much. I do not take the glory that I'm the oldest in marriage, but I think I'm about 17 years in marriage and still counting. If we go by studies, I don't think there's any course you do for up to 17 years before you get qualified, even PhD. Except you're doing the fourth or the fifth one. The third, fourth, and fifth one, which I'm aware that some of us are willing to do here. By God's standard and by even the societal standard, I think we all of us here have got what it takes to continue to mentor young people, continue to teach them, ultimately to make the world a better place for all of us.
Yeah, to make the world a better place for all of us. And remember I said earlier that if we don't take time, we may leave this studio today calling Chris Pastor Chris or, Chris the man of God.
Just try. Just try. I'm not there yet, but we're hoping to do that.
Yeah, and we want to thank Mike, especially for bringing out those important areas of the discussion. Mike, what is your concluding remark as we...
I would say that we are going to explore more options in this area. We will discuss about the Gen Z, the millennial. You mentioned that there will be a point where the child will be able to confront the parents we have an expert in our midst that will be able to categorize the Gen Z, the Millennial, the Gen Y, and analyze
the Gen Alpha, the Gen Alpha.
The audience should be able to glue and stay tuned. We are coming.
Well, you've had it all. We are promising you that we are bringing up a guest that will look into another context on this subject, looking into Gen Z, alpha male, and, all those characteristics that define the modern child, of the modern male child. We'll bring that analysis here. And we also bring in guests that will look into this subject or this issue from another perspective, from the female perspective. We want a female guest here that would also address it from the perspective of womanhood. And we would encourage you, if you want to come to our studio, send us an email like others have done, and we would have that preparation. We can arrange for you to be in the studio and you contribute to this part of the discussion. Remember, our studio is here. Our studio is also online. So wherever you are, if you're in the US, in Canada, in Nigeria, in Algeria, in Kenya, we can connect with you. We can connect with you and have this constructive conversation. From my humble self and from the team here this evening and from the entire Glasscast team, we want to thank you, and we'll see you in the next episode.